Then all of last week we were below average. We had a nice cool down out there. Now we're flipping back to above average temperatures, and we're kind of going to stay there in our extended forecast. And so tracking record heat is going to be the story here all across the greater Tampa Bay area. You see the forecast highs in yellow, the record highs in red, and you see we're pretty much tying or getting right up into record territory each and every afternoon. 91 is the official record high for today at the Tampa International Airport. That record high set back in 2022. So the other thing that we're watching out there today and again on Saturday is going to be this elevated fire danger. You see this section here highlighted in these areas that are dealing with this elevated fire risk for the day on Friday. So just something to keep in mind. You see all of these places away from the immediate coast, but it's really a big chunk of the West Coast, Central and South Florida. Those are our main areas of concern. And again on Saturday, we've got this area all along the coast and even into parts of Polk County, parts of DeSoto and Hardy counties, really a good chunk of those counties under this fire danger threat for Saturday. So just keep that in mind with any of your events that you're getting into, any of your activities, I should say, that you're getting into. Be careful with anything that can start a spark. Under these fire danger conditions, that basically just allows for a spark to spread very quickly under these really dry, and it's also going to be a bit of a breezy setup, which I'll show you there in just a second. But we'll start with one of the ingredients leading to the high fire danger is the relative humidity. I mean, look at these relative humidity values. 34% right now in Tampa, Naples 32% for you, 40s and 50s for other parts of Central and South Florida spots. So it is dry out there for Florida standards, but we've also got this kind of windier pattern in place right now for a good portion of the Sunshine State. We see these winds right now gusting up to 25 miles per hour all along the East Coast. We've primarily have these winds coming in out of the east, some of that southeast wind in place as well. And so 18-mile-per-hour gusts right now in Brooksville. We have been seeing all across the greater Tampa Bay area today, winds gusting up into the low 20s. And that is kind of going to be the potential as we look ahead to the day on Saturday. So really the big picture here is high pressure overall in control across the southeast. That's going to lead to more of these beautiful sunny days, but of course that big time warmth as we talked about. So we check on temperatures. Very close to where we were at this point in the day yesterday, with a lot of spots warming through the mid and the upper 80s. 89 right now, Tampa, 88 Brooksville, St. Pete, you're sitting right at 85. I've got 87 in Clearwater, so even some of our coastal spots pushing up near 90. You see Newport Richey 90 degrees at this hour, 82 in Sarasota, and we're sitting right about 87 for Sebring and Wauchula areas. But these winds are kind of going to continue to be on the breezy side at times. We will get some of these gusts up into this range. This kind of highlights our peak wind gusts. Could be up into the low and mid 20s through the rest of Friday afternoon and evening. We kind of pump the brakes on the winds just a bit, but on into our Saturday morning, we fast forward out. You see these 10, 15-mile-per-hour winds, and then on into the afternoon, the potential for some of those 20-mile-per-hour gusts will be in place yet again. So winds not going to be too much of an issue for Easter egg hunts or any of your outdoor plans that you have, but just something to mention. We're not going to be dealing with completely calm conditions out there as far as winds, so those breezes really amplifying that fire risk for today and Saturday. We still have some of that drier air in place. You look at that water vapor imagery, we see that brown color kind of pushing out of Central and South Florida spots. And so overall, this is really what's been helping keep our humidity levels in check here. We had that front that moved through, and really the biggest thing we noticed was that reinforcing push of the drier air. And so we see that reflected with our dew points. Right now, dew points in the 50s to low 60s for most of the area. And overall, through Easter weekend into next week, humidity levels in this comfortable range where we're mostly kind of between 50, 60 degrees for our dew points. And so we're not really going to build back in more humid air. That's when dew points get closer to 70 for the next week or so. So that is some good news. Even though we're talking this high heat, once we start to factor in that high humidity, that's when it feels much hotter outside. And so at the very least, this is your Easter weekend. We're talking right at 90 degrees Saturday and Sunday. That's going to tie record highs both days if we hit 90 degrees, but it's feeling more like the low 90s, as I mentioned to you, without that high humidity. So a bit of a trade-off there is at least it's not 90 and feeling more like 96. And so it is overall going to be nice with a lot of sunshine in place. And you look at this high pressure, you see how that really just continues continues to dominate here across the southeast, as a couple upper level lows are going to be moving through other parts of the country, keeping things more active from the Rockies to the southern plains and the Midwest. We'll talk more about that, but quite the opposite for them, as we have snow, severe storms in the forecast for today and right on through Easter Sunday. So for us, I mean, you look at the next 10 days, you see the high temperature trend. That's the upper line here. I mean, we're right at 90 degrees right on through the end of April. And the blue line here in the bottom, that's our overnight lows. And you notice we're right near 70 degrees, if anything, in the low 70s as we close out the month of April. So after a couple of below average days here this month, I hope you enjoyed them. It looks like more of this summer preview is in sight as we close out the month of April. And so this is our temperature outlook, April 25th through May 1st. Just look at this warm up that we are going to build in really all across the Rockies and the eastern tier of the country, expecting these above normal temperatures. So we flip things to talking about a lot of warmth all across the country. But as far as this rain outlook, we don't really have the threat for much rain here across the southeast. You see all those green colors further west, allowing for some above normal precipitation at the end of April and into May. But for the Sunshine State, it really looks like more of this dry weather trend is going to be the big story for us. And so we see this small section here, kind of this bullseye along the southern edge of the peninsula, where there is really a low threat for this probability of above normal rain chances, where we see this light green color. Otherwise, though, it looks like more of these dry days are going to continue. And so our drought monitor, that's just something we're continuing to keep an eye on, as we have seen those drought conditions worsen. I play back your drought monitor from the start of April and then to today, and you see how that kind of changes. I'll roll it back for you one more time. But you can see still drought across similar areas from the start of April to now. It's just that we're seeing some of those worse categories building in. And so particularly this section in red that's just to the south of Lake Okeechobee, that's where we have extreme drought conditions and rain deficits running up to 4 and 5 inches for those spots. And we also are continuing to watch for these conditions to allow for some wildfires to spark up. We currently have about 19 in the state that we are keeping tabs on. And so it's that time of the year where all of these dry conditions and these really dry grasses and fuels are allowing for any sparks to be able to have a little bit more fuel to the fire due to these really dry conditions. And you see some of the grasses around the area. People have been messaging me saying their grasses are basically crunchy out there. And yes, it is the dry season, but we really have not had much rain through March and April. And we look out over the next 7 days, and unfortunately we just don't have any of that on the way for us. You kind of see this cutoff here where there is going to be some rain that creeps into parts of Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, and further to the north and west. Some big rain totals are going to be possible the next couple of days, and we'll talk more about that coming up in the show. But we just miss out on all of the action as far as any of that rain. So at least that comes with more nice afternoons to head to the beach. But it is that point of the year where we start to watch for these rain chances to be on the climb, especially for May. And then June and July, we are in the heart of our rainy season at that point. So we'll try and look on the bright side here and enjoy these drier days while we have them before we are right in the heart of our rainy season here in Florida. So for the rest of this evening, sun cloud mix. Temperature tops out right around 90 for the 5 o'clock hour. Then by 7 o'clock, we start to dip through the upper 60s, really, or upper 80s rather. And then temperatures right around 80 degrees once the sun goes down for that 9 o'clock hour. Generally clear and seasonal for tonight, as we'll fall through the 70s really slowly through the rest of this evening. And tonight is really comfortable if you're hoping to have dinner outside. Maybe you're going to the Rays game, and then really mild even into the start of our Saturday morning, as temperatures, they're going to bottom out in the mid 60s. And so if you're heading to the Rays game, that first pitch a little after 7 o'clock, going to be a great one for that. Sunny to get things going, but then temperatures right around the mid 70s as the game is wrapping up and you're making your way home. Here's a look at lows tonight. We'll have these variable winds, but generally those breezes between 5 and 10 will be possible tonight. Calmer in the overnight and early Saturday morning hours as we bottom out right around 65 in Tampa, 57 for our low in Crystal River, upper 50s Brooksville, Wesley Chapel, St. Pete, Clearwater, right around 67, 68 for lows for you. So it is going to be rather mild to start our Saturday morning. 62 for the low in Northport, about 61 for Wauchula, Frostproof, Sebring, and Lake Placid areas. There's a look at your highs for Saturday. We're seeing quite a few low 90s in the mix, but generally upper 80s to low 90s for highs for most areas. We're forecasting 90 degrees for Tampa, Clearwater, Brandon. As we already talked about, for many spots, this will be tying or up into record territory for these high temperatures. 86 for the high along St. Pete, Venice at 86 as well. And then we're talking more in the way of upper 80s for parts of Polk County, DeSoto, Hardy, and Highlands counties as well. As for getting out on the water this weekend, it's going to be pretty nice for it, but we are going to be dealing with a moderate chop on bay and inland waters both Saturday, Sunday. Seas around 2 to 3 feet with winds in this kind of 5 to 15 mile per hour range out of the east initially on Saturday and then out of the southeast by the afternoon and evening. And while we're talking about record heat, just look at this view in Colorado. Those are some fat flakes coming down as we have some spring snow in the mix. This is looking pretty good though in Breckenridge, Colorado, as we are still in the heart of ski season, and spring skiing is certainly a hot commodity for parts of the Rockies. We're going to talk more details about that after I send it off to a short break. Stick with me. Hey everyone, welcome back into SkyTower weather now. Well, I'm sure for many of us Floridians, this is the way we would prefer to see the snow, from inside on weather cameras, right? But for other folks, I'm sure they are happy to see some of this late season snow. Breckenridge, that's one of those areas that typically keeps their ski area open until the start of May. But of course, that is all dependent on if they get some snow. And boy, are they getting in the mix for some of that out there today and into Easter weekend. You see all of that snow right now for parts of the Colorado Rockies. Heading up into Wyoming, we're seeing some snow coming down as well. And down into the Four Corners region, parts of Utah is also seeing that as well. We'll see some of that spread into New Mexico into tonight and tomorrow as well. And so the big picture here, we've got this big frontal boundary. We've got kind of two main areas of low pressure, one up into the Great Lakes and the other that's kind of sliding just to the south of Colorado. And actually, when we see these areas of low pressure scoot to the south of Colorado, that's when these Colorado mountain areas typically see their best snow. So a good setup for them, but then we'll focus for parts of the southern plains into the Midwest and the Great Lakes, where this same boundary is going to allow for several severe storms to be possible today, Saturday into Sunday. So we are talking multiple days of this severe weather threat for that part of the country. But first, today comes the snow for all of these areas, and you see that here looking ahead through the rest of tonight and into tomorrow. There will be some kind of rain mixed in more on the south side of this, but for parts of Utah, Wyoming, Montana, this is going to be able to produce quite a bit of snow out there. Some of our lower elevation spots, say around Denver, I mean, we were so warm yesterday leading into this snow that for some of our lower elevation spots, not really going to be talking about a big accumulating snow conditions, just so warm going into this actual event. But we've got the cold, snowy side of that, and then we're going to be watching for this severe threat Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be a big deal for parts of this country, as we're going to be talking about multiple rounds of rain that could cause some flooding concerns for the same part of the country that we're still watching for these swelled up rivers that have really been on our alert for the last week and a half, 2 weeks now. But then also, we're talking all modes of severe weather to be possible here, from large hail, damaging wind gusts, and even some isolated tornadoes. And so we look to the setup on Saturday. You notice on the left side of the screen, we're still dealing with that snow back further west, but late tonight, especially after sunset, we start to see some of these severe storms rolling. And we're really talking this threat area from Dallas, parts of Texas, all the way up into Chicago, Illinois areas, and further off to the north and east. But it's areas around Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Wichita, where we are likely going to start to see that activity picking up. It's later past sunset, and so overnight tonight and into Saturday morning, those storms are going to be rolling through these areas. And so whenever we see these storms and the severe threat lining up at night, kind of an area of concern. And so we'll continue to watch for this really over the next couple of days. I fast forward now to Sunday morning, where we're still dealing with these widespread areas of rain and storms. And notice it's kind of these similar 10 to 11 states that are going to be under this threat for rain and storms all through Easter weekend. Then on Sunday, we see that kind of shifting a little bit more north, where we'll see some of that snow mixing in with rain for parts of the upper Midwest. And so that's where we're going to be watching for active weather here over Easter weekend. But you see where that subtropical jet is? This is always a good indicator of where we're going to be able to see more of this active weather lining up. And so it's right along this jet stream here, where notice that lined up with those areas where that severe track is going to be in place for the next couple of days. And so on the east side of that, we've got all of that southerly flow aiding in warmer temperatures for parts of the east down to the Sunshine State, and then all across the Rockies and even down to the Four Corners region, feeling those below normal temperatures closer to the polar jet stream. And that's where all of that snowfall is going to come down. And for parts of the higher terrain elevations, you see some of those pinks and purples in the mix. Woo, that is some pretty decent snow coming down. We're talking over a foot of snow to be likely, and see some of these dark purple colors here. You can kind of see those right around Colorado Springs, down into some of the southern mountains there. That's where we're talking the potential for maybe over a foot up to a foot and a half of snow. And so that's going to be a big deal for some of these areas. Of course, actually, this is one of the snowiest months on record for this part of the country, so it's not completely out of the norm to be dealing with some big snowfall events out across the Rockies and western Colorado in particular. But this severe storm threat, that is something that we're going to be watching. I mentioned to you a lot of these starting to fire up later tonight, and though this plays out right on through 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and you can see where all of these storms are starting to set up shop from Dallas up through St. Louis and just outside Cincinnati and Chicago areas. That is something that will be a concern starting Saturday, but right on into Easter Sunday, more of these active storms are going to be in the mix. And so we look at the temperature change across the country. You see where the heat is. We're dealing with temperatures 20 degrees warmer than this time yesterday in Washington, but Denver, that's the spot feeling the real cold air. That has been a big change from yesterday. 43 degrees colder than yesterday in Denver. Omaha, Nebraska, you're down by about 24 degrees. Lubbock, Texas, even about 20 degrees cooler than this time yesterday. So we look at these temperatures across the country. It is 82 right now in Cincinnati, Chicago 76 for you, Kansas City upper 50s, and then we are just above the freezing mark for Denver, Casper, Wyoming, freezing mark for you. It is 44 right now in Salt Lake City, upper 60s for Vegas, and we get to the west coast there. We have temperatures in the upper 50s to low 60s. And overall, this is a look at our forecast across the country for tomorrow, where we already highlighted to you where we're going to be tracking more of those storms. You see where that snow is going to continue, where we have those cold temperatures in the 40s for highs expected tomorrow. So we're going to switch gears now. We've got one more quick commercial break to send it to, but of course, if you watch us on Wednesdays, you know Nash and I, we always do weather trivia. So I'm going to kick us off with the question, and we're going to give you the answer after this break. And actually, I haven't even read the question yet, so I'm getting in on it for the first time with you all. All right, the weather trivia, Nash set this one up on Sunday. How much fast-moving flood water does it take to knock an adult off their feet? Ooh, I might know this one, but let's see if you do. We're going to send it off to a 2-minute commercial break, and we'll see you back on the other side. Oh. Well, hey everyone, welcome back into the show. I brought in a special guest.
I was just getting my show done right next door in the weather office, and we realized we
dragged you in here.
Yes, and we didn't get to do this game Wednesday, so I figured it'd be fun to end the show with.
Yeah, our schedules are a little bit off. Of course, it's the holiday weekend, so I'm happy to have you here to do weather trivia with us. So let's go ahead and get right into the questions. So, how much fast-moving water does it take to knock an adult off their feet? Nash, the options that you wrote up, 6 inches, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet.
You were giving me some crap about these options during the commercial break.
I might have been.
I think a lot of people are looking at this saying, well, at least 3 feet to knock me off my feet. You know what I mean?
I remember when I was discussing this with my brother, and he was shocked at the answer, which
it sounds like you probably know it.
I do. So A is going to be my guess.
Okay, A is your guess. When I played this weekend, let's look at how the guesses wound up. Brianna, right there, A as well. Lloyd went B. A is the correct answer.
And it's incredible to think about that, and it's important to know. We're talking about moving floodwaters. It only takes 6 inches, though, Nash. And so the power of water is certainly incredible.
And it varies by terrain as well. You picture the mountainous terrain farther north of us. You get caught up and swept away with some waters that are coming down a mountainside at some very fast speed. So that's what you have to consider with this. A lot of fun, though, playing this. And remember, 1 foot for an SUV or a car, 2 feet for an SUV. You get the idea. So it just goes upward from there.
Thanks for playing. I appreciate the guest appearance for the show.
Of course.
Now get on out of here. Get back to the rest of your regularly scheduled programming. You'll see more of Nash next week. But as we close out the show, my friends, let's talk about more of the record heat that we're tracking for this weekend. Nash and I, the dynamic duo, we're forecasting 90 degrees both Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. So we're talking about the potential to tie record highs on both days. Now, keep in mind, our average high this time of year, it's up to 84 degrees. And so regardless, we are talking temperatures well above normal all across the area. But let's go ahead and jump right into your 7-day forecast. I know we could use the rain. We talked about the drought, the fire concerns, so be careful with that today and tomorrow. But no rain in sight, and overall, pretty nice looking for our 7-day forecast. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being here with me on SkyTower Weather Now. I hope you all have a beautiful Easter weekend, and we'll see you back here same time, same place next week.
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon live on Fox Local, Fox13News.com, Fox35Orlando.com, and also on YouTube. Today we are continuing to follow up and on the tragedy in Tallahassee, and as we learn more about the impact of this, as we learn more about the suspect in this, a lot of different angles we have for you today as we continue to dig in more to this tragedy that occurred yesterday afternoon. We're going to have the current conditions of the surviving patients, some positive and encouraging news from hospital officials just a little bit ago. We'll have that for you in a little bit. We're going to talk with Fox 13's Evan Axelbank about what this tragedy means for several bills being debated at the state capitol when it comes to gun safety legislation, when it comes to cell phones in schools. So that's one of the bills as well. We're going to hear about how to deal with the emotional toll of the tragedy. We know this has far-reaching impacts. We're going to hear more about that coming up in a little bit. We're also going to see how the campus community in Tallahassee is reacting. We know there's a growing memorial on the campus of Florida State University today, but we want to begin with some new details about the shooter's movements in the hours and moments leading up to the shooting yesterday. Some new information from Tallahassee police coming just in the last little bit. I want to break down this timeline for you. According to Tallahassee police, the suspect, Phoenix Eichner, arrived at an FSU parking garage around 11 o'clock in the morning. This would have been yesterday morning. They said he stayed in that area for about an hour, moving in and out of his car. Then at 11:51, Tallahassee police say that is when Eigner left the parking garage. It was about 5 minutes later, between 11:56 and 11:57, when police believe the first shot was fired. They say Eigner walked in and out of the buildings, the green spaces there by the student union. They say that was when he was firing that handgun. By 11:58 a.m., the 911 calls began to come in. It started, we got multiple 911 calls, and as those calls are coming in, they say nearby police officers were already responding at that same time, ostensibly hearing those gunshots and potentially other noise as well. At noon, the suspect was shot by responding officers and taken into custody. So the entire incident, police now saying, lasted less than 5 minutes. Still, in that time, we know the suspect was able to injure 8 people, 2 people killed. We know that 6 patients being treated at the hospital, all with gunshot wounds, 2 possibly going home today, that being the update. But obviously, still a lot of emotion and a very somber feeling on the campus of Florida State University today. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger had been there since yesterday afternoon, ended up leaving this morning. We had the chance to speak with her just a little bit ago via Zoom as she on her way back from Tallahassee. And here's what she told us about the feeling on campus today.
People are still processing. We saw a bunch of people head to a memorial that's just outside the student union where the shooting happened. So this is kind of on the back side. There's a smaller memorial towards the front. But the video you're seeing there, that's something we took a couple of hours ago. Even since then, it's maybe doubled in size. As the sun came up, there were just hundreds, honestly, hundreds of students who went to pay their respects, and they left flowers, they left teddy bears, some left notes. Some just went and said a few words or shed a few tears over the memorial there. But I did actually get to talk with several students about how they were feeling. And one girl was talking about how at this point she wants to take action. It's not just about feeling sad or feeling scared. For her, she does want to see some change. So we do have a clip of the conversation I had with her earlier today, if we're able to roll that.
That's all I can really explain. You never want to think that the place that you call home would have this happen. I mean, it's heartbreaking, it's scary. You know, it's like a piece of the innocence of the school has been taken away from us. So it's just like, with all this going on, and it's just hard to think about and trying to continue forward as a school and together as a community.
What made you want to come out this morning?
I wanted to pay my respects to see and everything, you know, like I go here, this is my place. So it's just, I wanted to see, you know, we lost 2 people, and even if they weren't students, they were still people near and dear to the Florida State community. So it's just coming here to pay my respects and honestly just seeing the sense of community around here too, and seeing how everyone can come together in this time.
And then speaking of that community, what's it like for you seeing the memorial that's already been set up?
It's really emotional, I won't lie. Like you don't really realize it. Like you see pictures, you know, you see it posted everywhere, but then when you come here and like you see everyone here standing here, and all the flowers, it's just like, it's really profound at how huge this has affected the school. So
We've been talking this morning and last night about how students go through drills, they prepare for the potential for an active shooter. It's so different actually living it.
Mm-hmm. Truly, yeah. You never really know how you're going to react in that situation. You know, you can think like, I would help or I would scream, or you just never truly know. So, you know, having these drills, I feel like prior to what everyone has gone through in high school.